6:16. So since our student is not here today, I will just read our mission. We provide accelerated curricula in all subjects with the emphasis on math and science. And our vision is lifelong learners and global citizens. I'd also just like to kind of say thank you to everybody that is here in person and here virtually, and just to kind of say like, welcome to our new exciting world of online technology. And I wanted to say thank you also to the administration. I know that they have done so much over the last couple of days, so much extra work and everything. So I wanted to say thank you to them. And thank you to the parents and students, because you are helping us to make sure, or we appreciate that you are being adaptable and we kind of try to figure out things as we go. And thank you to the teachers as well, because I know that all of us really have to change the way that we're kind of looking at technology. And I think this will be like a great kind of new start and have like a lot of new ideas that we'll be able to use. Is not here today. Mr. Aki is supposed to be online, but he's not present right now. So hopefully he'll be joining us. And then Mr. Kowski is absent as well today. And then non-voting members, Ms. Lundman, Darlene are gone today. All right, so to approve the agenda, is there anybody who would like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Just want to note that someone has texted me and said the streaming is working.
Oh, I just checked it out. Not.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any changes to the agenda that you want to make before we vote on it? Do we want to add something about the staff utilizing the closure days in the same way that we talked about?
Oh, yes.
I think, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll add a D and I'll say staff closure days. Is that okay?
Yep.
Any other changes to the agenda?
The agenda mentioned the last topic that Mr. G mentioned in our workshop about the cycling.
That is not in, we could do that during the finance report. We could add it there or have it as a separate item. Either one works.
Finance report sounds good.
All right, so good. Any other changes? Good. All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Any abstentions? All right, so the motion passes. Is there anybody who had a conflict of interest with any of the elements? All right, so then we don't have anyone physically here for the open forum, but I did ask people to send me things that they wanted me to say during the open forum. So I did get one response for the open forum. So this is from Ms. Heather. She said, to be respectful of the board members, I will not be at the meeting tonight, but we'll be watching it online. If distance learning becomes a reality, will you be open to older kids tutoring younger kids via electronics? Could we make that a thing to help give teachers another resource? This may be an opportunity for mentoring, where kids check in on each other if there are programs available for web meetings, so kids can interact. That would be great. And then also she says, if teachers are overwhelmed, parents can help, let us know. We will take this into consideration as we do our planning for the next couple of weeks. So, then we're on to the approval of the minutes. So if you want to look at the board workshop and regular minutes from February 18th. Are there any changes that you would like to make before we approve them? All right, is there a motion to approve the amendments of the board workshop and regular meeting of February 18th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, All those in favor of approving the board workshop and regular meeting minutes from February 18th, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Any abstentions? If you would take a minute to look at those meeting notes, and let me know if there are any changes.
Yep, page 21.
Oh, I just know. Anybody have any changes? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes then from March 2nd? Oh, all right, is there a second? All right, thank you. All those in favor of approving the special meeting board minutes from March 2nd, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. All right, the next page then. So then we're on to the chair's report. And I guess I don't really have anything extra to say that I didn't already say kind of at the beginning of the meeting. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of new things, so I just appreciate that everyone has patience as we kind of start this new process and all of these new different things that people are going to have to do. So, director's report?
That starts on page 25. I guess I don't have anything to add other than what's been going on in the last week with the coronavirus and all the updates and changes that's forced on all schools. And will continue to do so in the future. So, no formal additions to it.
All right, so then we're on to the student representative update, and unfortunately, Emily had a cold, so she's not here, and she didn't send me anything to update you about, so we'll skip that. So onto the board committees. So the first one then is the academics committee, and the minutes are in there, so you can certainly look at those. The biggest thing that we talked about really was the academic eligibility policy, because we really have to update like the dates and how and when we're looking at academic eligibility. And I know we talked about it at the last board meeting. At the academics committee, we did not come to a conclusion, and we decided to create another committee, like our task force, to look at that more closely. So we will obviously, do academic eligibility for this year, but for next year, thinking about when it's going to happen throughout the year, that's going to change, obviously. Okay. So that was the biggest thing from the academics committee. Our next meeting is supposed to be Monday, April 6th. I assume maybe we'll have some sort of online meeting, and that would be my guess. So, anyway. All right. The next one then is the annual fund, and Mr. Langseth is not here. Is there anybody who can report on that or? Okay. All right, and for the communications committee, they did not meet. I think they're supposed to meet tomorrow. So, but I know that the meeting was canceled as well. So, Mrs. Kurkowski said that she didn't really have anything to report. Then the personnel minutes should be in there. The personnel committee did meet, and so that seems like it was forever ago. But what we did for that was we're trying to fuse kind of the standards for principals and superintendents along with the job description of the director. So we're putting those things kind of all together into one document instead of having a couple different places where you would be looking to actually evaluate the director. So that was kind of the main thing that we looked at that committee. We're supposed to meet at the end of the month. I guess we'll kind of see how that works. Probably another online meeting for that as well. So, and then, yeah.
I didn't see them in here,
Oh, they're not in there.
but just double check.
Okay.
Before we, I didn't see them.
Oh, okay, then I will have to get them in there. So I sent them over yesterday with my other things. Okay. I will send those out then. All right, and then finance, I don't know.
So we just met right before the board packet, so you won't have any documents other than the financial statements and the supplemental information. I made hard copies for all board members to have a copy of it. there is a couple of things that you should be aware of. I guess the highlights are we're basically, if you look at the budget, we're at 67% of the year's budget. And our revenue is coming in just right around 63%. Our expenditures are right around 63%. The bottom line right now, projected to have a surplus of 187,000. But who knows what's going to happen in the coming months. So that could change. However, the revenue stream is solid, and the government has assured, ME has assured us that these closure dates are not going to affect the revenue stream. So what we have planned for will be there financially. So as long as our expenses are and our revenue is that number should hold pretty close.
On that one, do we see any additional expense? I mean, are we gonna have to pay for distancing more? Or
That's a great question, Dan. I actually anticipate expenditures from things that we would have ordered in class anyway. We may have to order some alternative for students to use at home. So I don't anticipate a large increase. It may be close to a wash that way. So I don't anticipate that being a big increase or decrease. But on the expenditure side, as far as maintenance goes and on the school building itself, we should be in a cost-saving mode to speak, because we don't have all the people in the building. So a lot of the maintenance items are not going to be there. Flush toilets not working, that kind of thing, or replacing paper towels and that kind of thing. So a lot of those expenditures probably won't be as much.
I was just gonna say, one expenditure, I think, local now, some of our sporting events.
Right. The one thing that is the fundraiser that we have planned in May. More than likely, I don't want to say it won't happen, but it will be in a different form if it does happen. So I don't think we can anticipate receiving the revenue that we are anticipating from that. I guess I don't want to go further and speculate any more than that.
We pay extra for the deep clean that afterwards.
Yes, so the cleaning crew that came in and cleaned everything over break, that was an additional cost, but it was under $1,000. So it's fairly minimal. That's within the
Running throughout the rest of the school year, we pare back on some of the maintenance, custodial.
Yes. Yeah, that's one thing that we will be paring back, because we don't have the need for the cleaning other than some classrooms which we may pare down to once a week rather than every day, 5 days a week. So that's so I guess we would need a motion to approve the financial statements and the supplemental information, which is a check register, basically.
Okay. Is there a second to approve the financials and the supplemental information?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the financials and the supplemental information, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
The second item with the financial learning and the desire to change the performance stipend goal so that MCA related. We would like to amend the performance stipend goal then to read that instead of the past goal or the current goal, we would amend the performance stipend goal to read at least 95% of MSA's 12th grade students will graduate, rather than the MCA goal. And this is done mostly the MCAs will not be extended or modified, which will have a direct impact on student achievement. And I think it would be very unfair to all the staff to have them evaluated on a standard that doesn't very easily measure, and that will not change and has not changed year to year. So by making that a 50 or a 95% graduation rate, that would basically, in essence, mean 57 out of our 60 seniors would need to graduate.
Said 95.
Yeah, 95% graduation rate.
But sorry, what was the number again?
So the graduation rate would need to be 95%. So with 60 seniors, that would mean we'd need 57 to graduate. To meet the goal.
What's our historical rate of graduation?
Historical rate of graduation is close to 100%. So the MCA test, well, it depends on which test it is. The MCA goal that we had was in math. And it was, the way the goal was stated, it's in comparison with Woodbury High School, so it's only high school math that was being compared. So we're basically exchanging one high school goal for another high school.
What, I can't remember what grades do they test? I mean, it's not every.
No, it's not every grade. It's middle school and then in the high school, and I don't remember off the top of my head exactly which grade it is. It's, I want to say 10th grade. I want to say 10th grade is math, and I believe 11th grade is the science. I don't
And
quote
the
me.
reason I ask is, there's gonna be no perfect measure, but they were just left with graduation, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere near the measurement that we used to use. Not even in terms of percentages and everything, it's just, MCAs are kind of, you know, upper middle school and lower high school, and graduation is really not a comparable measure. And I think we all kind of know that, but is there anything else we could use?
Based on ACT or PSAT testing, which is up in the air already anyway. So I don't think those are valid ones to look at either.
So I like the idea of not holding everyone to a moving target, right? So that makes sense. I especially like if we could say maybe for a 1-year exemption, right? So it's not carrying on in the years in the future, so that we can remember as a board that next year we put it back to a more stringent target. This year doesn't maybe make sense to hold it to a test where we don't even know what's going to happen. Right?
And that is the one thing about the performance statement is it is purely a year to year, because some years, if it looks like budgetary wise, we aren't going to have much of a surplus, we would offer a performance bonus. I'm sorry, statement, not bonus, strike that. So that is the performance stipend is a year, is specifically only 1 year for that specific calendar or school year. But yes, to make sure that that knowledge is carried on to the next board, that the graduation rate is probably not the best one to use.
But it won't change the outcome.
Right. And fundamentally, the reason to do this is, as we just saw in the financials, we don't need to add a tremendous, another tremendous amount of money to the general fund. I would much rather have that money in the hands of the staff, and that money would go out in the summer at a time when they'll probably need it the most. So I guess we would need a motion to amend the performance stipend goal to be at least 95% of MSA's 12th grade students will graduate.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. expansion possibilities that we can make, so.
Yeah, so we had our meeting, once again, like I said, it felt like ages ago. We had a visit of Suntech Realty, he's the third consultant that we had visit us, spoke about the services that they can offer. The groups that we saw. On my plate is, I had suggested perhaps putting together a very short form RFP to send to each of these three groups, very basic. And a lot of it is going to cover some of the, they will be able to tell us in their words, things like how are the fees going to be paid, how many people are going to put on the project, anticipated timeline and whatnot. So we're going to move forward on that. And it's up to me to send that out, or I'll send it out to the first. Hopefully within next week. And definitely move it along. I also talked a little bit about the annual stakeholder. We're going to do a report. We haven't really quite nailed down what that report would be. We were hoping to get some more information about the consultants, but obviously the little things here got derailed, and it's been great. It's for me personally, but we'll continue to push on. Timeline might be a little stretched out. Unfortunately, not the highest priority, but we do want to do it. And the next meeting is scheduled for the end of this month, and once again, what that might look like, change, and we might not even need a meeting, because it might be a matter of getting work done, and we'll essentially communicate by email and get to see the documents. So we'll decide that with next week.
All right, so onto the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I think we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Sure, I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, any abstentions? All right, motion passes. All right, then on to the bylaw changes. So we kind of have been talking about a couple of these kind of as we've gone kind of throughout the year. So there are two that we kind of need to start thinking about, and these will have to go to the staff or to the teachers as well. But I want to make sure that we all want these things before I bring it to the teachers. So the two things we've been talking about, first of all, chair-elect and the chair and with the director. And so thinking about the relationship between those three people, that vice chair or the chair-elect would be brought into like all of the planning, all of the understanding, all of the meetings before they became the actual chair. So for example, last year when I was the vice chair, it wasn't obvious I was going to be the chair. That wasn't automatically the thing. So I didn't meet with the chair and the director, because I was just the vice chair and I had one role, and that was just to do this job if the chair wasn't here. That was my only role. And so I think that if we have the vice chair, if we say the vice chair is actually the chair-elect, then that brings that person into the conversations much earlier, and they can kind of hit the ground running, and then the director to have a relationship with the chair-elect for 2 years. So when they're the chair-elect, and then when they're the vice, or the I mean, we talked about this quite a while ago. Keep moving because we had kind of put these two off because of the other one that we were focused on. So I don't know if you guys want to vote on it right now or proceed on it.
Probably the staff first. I mean, we could make the vote, but
Okay.
we have to vote again.
Right. We have to vote twice no matter what. So, right. But is there anybody who's like totally against it and was like, because I don't want to waste the time of the teachers if we don't even want to do it.
It seems like it makes sense. I'm just trying to put myself, so I have 1 year. So if next year, and I'm doing a 3-year term. So if next year I'm interested, I can do vice, I apply for vice chair and vote. But then it's like, I'm just trying to think if I don't like it, I feel like I'm letting everyone down, like for whatever reason, it's not working out. So I like the idea and the progression makes sense in terms of the succession planning. So I would actually vote for it. But it's just, it's an interesting, it's almost like you're signing up for 2 years, then you're signing up for 1 term, and then the next if you pretty much, right?
And you also have to, the vice chair or the chair-elect and the chair have to be, one of them has to be a teacher and the other one has to plan that out, thinking about terms and all of those things too. So,
Well, I think you just mentioned something that we're just have to make sure we're precise in the rules, which is, if they're 3-year terms, and you're in the last year of your term, does that automatically preclude you? And the answer is, well, actually, it doesn't. You would have to, of course, run again, but then how do we manage that? Because is that automatic or it should be? So, yeah, and the answer is, well, maybe it should be, but there's a little bit of uncertainty that created. And also probably to reiterate to the teachers that, or maybe to the future board that, therefore you don't need and won't vote on the incoming chair, right? Because you kind of did the previous chair as president. I mean, I know it sounds obvious, but you don't revote, reconfirm that person automatically steps.
but I also think like at this point in the year, thinking about, okay, the new board in June is gonna have a different chairperson.
Right.
And we don't have a clue of who that person is.
Right.
So me even trying to work with that person, like I can't even like bring them under my wings right now and say, hey, let me help you do this or whatever. Whereas if you know who that person's going to be, then I think there's a lot of mentoring and things like that that can be done.
So the transition period will be at least another year. I'm knowledgeable, so as vice chair, you feel like me, unless I'm not a community member, I want to.
Challenging.
So obviously the transition we have to work through, but the concept of it.
So I like your point on concept, but I also like the idea of the formality of voting again. Because let's just say I ran, I was a terrible vice chair then. I think the board should be able to say, in fact, we would rather go a different direction
That's a
than
good point.
So there needs to be a check every year we're coming to the board and saying, yes, we agree or no.
Or to your point, your circumstances change.
Yeah, you can't commit the time. something like that. So I think in general, this makes sense. There's a lot of different things that we always say depends.
I'm kind of feeling right now that this extra change may be overwhelming on top of.
Actually, put it out. Because it would have taken effect this year, because there's no one to step in.
Right.
So it would, the automatic elevation going to be considered.
But on the other hand, this new change might create more stability, which might be more favorable. I don't know.
I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it. You're right.
To me, I just thought it would help the next board because then they know right away what's going on. And so people can be brought in kind of to the loop so they understand all of the different conversations and things like that are going on. And then at that next board, that meeting in June, when the next board has to elect their chair and their vice chair, it becomes a little bit easier. Then you also know who's gonna run the next meeting. Like, so for example, I mean, Judy's gonna run the next meeting because all the other 3 officers will be gone in June. But, about all those things too. And so then sometimes it makes it awkward and all of these things, whereas if you have that idea beforehand, who's going to run that meeting, it's a
The way you could address this, to get to that point of the election, because or maybe I just get to the point where I sat as me and using that chair, as the board, the chair-elect, rather than put that in the bylaws as that specific progression, that you put it in the job duties of the vice chair, that they attend the meetings with the chair and the director, because then they're gaining that information year round. So you're in essence an apprentice, a chairperson, and I think that gives you an insight that most other people wouldn't have. But then you might get to that, do this, or I don't have the skill set needed. So you could back off, but you still have that knowledge to know. So I think you could approach it with that manner of changing some of the job description of the vice chair. And you could still change it to chair-elect and then change the duty titles of that.
Which way would we rather go? I'm fine with either one, I
Yeah,
just
I
wanted
mean,
to
me personally, it's a good option, I would not prefer it, because I want someone to really make a commitment. And if for some reason we couldn't do it, it'd have to be a really good reason to pull it back out, and feel a little more obligated to continue on. Rather than the other way, it sounds a little bit too wishy-washy, like, well, yeah, no, I tried it, it didn't work. Well, now we're back in the same place, which is still having one that's training to study. The outcome could be the same if I looked at extra knowledge.
And then like thinking about the board training, all of that stuff, because our, you come on in June, but the board training doesn't happen until February, the officer training. So as a new board chair, I mean, you could, if you knew you were gonna run for the chair, you could take that training ahead of time. But when you're the chair-elect, if you know for sure that you're going to be the chair, then you would take that training for sure in February. And make sure that you have all of the things that you need beforehand.
Put that in the job description of the vice chair.
Yeah.
Or-
It's just a matter of trying to get extra commitment.
Right.
Right.
It's a small thing.
Historically, it's been a 2-year, the vice chair has been a 2-year commitment because the underwriting expectation was that you will become the chair, but that's not a guarantee. And, I guess it's just not a guarantee that you're going to be that. But I think in some situations, and this year is very different because there, 3 of the officers are gonna be off. So there's not going to be a lot of officer, knowledge in the board itself. Sorry, Judy, you get a lot of pressure.
You do it.
So prior to, do you remember, was it in fact the case that the vice chair became chair?
It was, since I've been here, that's been the progression. Minus the 1 year where, Mr. Tylaka was the board chair 2 years in a row. And Ms. Lavina was the vice chair. But, other than those years, that was the progression.
And there's strong feelings over against, or want me to write to the teachers, or just change the job description?
Can we bring it to the teachers and not specify either way? Maybe the conversation with them gives us a little more insight into what
Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Then the next one I think is a little bit easier. The next one, right now we of course have our meeting like usually the 3rd week of June. But we have an issue just because theoretically our parents are not parents on the board anymore once their kid graduates from the school. So they graduate usually on a Friday, and then next Wednesday is when the grades are due. So as of that, I think, right?
Yeah,
As of that Wednesday, they're not a parent of a kid here anymore. And so theoretically, like, that's probably not gonna be a big deal. But what I was thinking is we would just move the board meeting one Monday earlier. So that it would be the Monday right after graduation. So that we fit the technical definition of making sure that all the parents on the board are still the parents. So,
that puts pressure on you to make sure graduation happens on your daily schedule.
But you could rewrite the bylaws so the June board meeting is the Monday after graduation.
yeah, that's it.
So then that's a moving target, so if graduation gets moved back a week, that board meeting automatically gets moved back.
Yeah, but then I think that affects the whole next year
Right.
for like the new members and
Yes.
stuff. Okay, you can start.
I'm actually kidding about it.
Yeah,
because, there's really no reason, although I just wanna make sure there's no reason that when I step off, that somehow, if by chance, things get a little.
Oh, to address that issue, Jeff, the MSA's historical tradition has been to invite the board member if they have a graduating senior.
Yeah.
To
But what he's
What I'm
saying is
saying
if
is-
graduation happens later, he
Afterwards?
won't be the board member.
we will make that,
We'll figure it out.
we will, if that is extremely extraordinary, special situation, we will make that exception.
Okay, then I can go.
What is remember until the next meeting after the event?
We're through the school year. Yeah.
We talked about that, and I don't remember why we didn't do that. So if we look at the term of the board members, it says, all board members shall begin and end at the regularly scheduled meeting in June, which shall be the first Monday after graduation. And I guess I couldn't remember why we didn't change the language of the parent member, because we looked at that in the.
Yeah, that's because in statute, the only way you can be a parent member is if you have a student in school, and once they graduate, they are no longer in school. So
Very tight.
right, if Jeff are your parent member and they have existing years left on their term, then this becomes an issue.
And actually, that doesn't happen very often,
Right, exactly. I think this is the first time it's happened.
because the last person that had someone graduate as a senior was stepping off the board anyway, because her term was up.
Right.
So that didn't affect her. So my ineligibility is definitional. Rather than control ratings.
Right.
So we're just gonna add that, we're gonna put our board meeting as the first Monday after graduation. And we think that would touch.
Well, except if, and that's what we thought, but now if graduation isn't the same time, then are we putting?
No, this, we really don't.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Could we say graduation, the first Monday after graduation or the third Monday in June, whichever is soonest? And then if God forbid,
Keep it simple. I mean, if you want to say Monday after graduation, I'm okay with that. I would trust that you would invite me back on stage, so I can actually do it.
Well,
If by chance the graduation
well, then we
happens.
wouldn't have a meeting in June, we would still need a June meeting.
And we
Right.
also have other parents who
Right.
will be done with their term this year. So when do they step down?
my
That's why I
question,
say keep it simple.
my question is, do we have to have wording in here that covers, like, because this year, our fear of graduation getting postponed is, that's a unique thing. Can we just put the Monday after graduation, and then if something happens with graduation, we make a special exception this year for this June meeting to go against this because of the extenuating circumstances? I don't feel like we need to put in every possible permutation of what could happen.
I agree. So keep it simple.
So what you're saying is you want a variance to your bylaws.
We might want one, we don't know yet.
Well, what I'm saying is leave it as this first Monday after graduation. If something happens where we have to change graduation, yeah, then make a vote on whatever change, like, we're gonna go against this because graduation changed.
Well, if the problem is we have the consent, well, you could, you would have to change the bylaws, but because you have to have two meetings, but you can have, that could be in 2 weeks. You could set up a special meeting right after your meeting in May, because you will know your graduation is extended or whatever. You just have to have a special board meeting to do that. You can't amend your bylaws for that special situation without going to do that twice. Anyway,
Leave it the meeting occurring the Monday after graduation, and if graduation turns out to be in August, then we just hold a special meeting in June. Since we wouldn't have a regularly scheduled meeting in June.
well,
And then the special meeting in June would just be it'd be a special meeting, well, then we have to specify that.
but the thing is with the graduation, if the graduation doesn't occur until August, Jeff is still a board member throughout that entire time because he's still a parent of a current student.
Right, but then what does that do for the election of the other terms, though?
But there isn't, because there won't be an election for his term until he resigns. There can't be an election until he resigns.
True, but when do we fill the seats of the teacher members that are done? We would still need that.
Oh, yes, the teacher
That's what
members,
we want.
that this is really only, this exemption is really only specific to a parent. It doesn't affect any of the other board terms. It's only for the parent. So that's the only that's the only position that's going to be affected by this bylaw change, is the parent. Because it's just a very specific example.
So looking at more broadly, let's say we had graduation late. I think what Judy is saying, do we just want to install the new board in June? And forget some of the little rules. It's just the outcome is, do we want the new board to wait because graduation has moved? Or do we want to install the new board and everyone, including my anticipated resignation, to just do it in June?
Yeah, I would, no matter when graduation is, I think that the election wouldn't change. I mean, because we'll start the election next week. So we're not gonna tell people that you were elected to a position, but we don't know if it'll start in June or July or August. I mean, and then what would happen the following year? Would they only serve, like, let's say if we changed when they started, then they would only serve 9 months instead of 12 months? Or would they serve 12 months and then every year after that would be off by however many months? I think no matter what, we want the new board to start in June.
Yes.
Right.
And I was trying to think, easily, regardless of my situation and graduation, we should just really target that to be the transition for everyone and all.
Right.
Just don't want to leave that out.
I think maybe your suggestion of doing the first Monday after graduation or the third Monday of June, whatever's first, would, I think it's simple enough that it would, I think that's simple. It's not as simple as it could be, but I think it's simple enough.
And then in 2 years, they'll come back and say, why do they have both of these in here?
It's already in there for them, they don't have to figure.
So it should be,
Whichever is soonest.
everybody's okay with that? I'll take it to the teachers. Sounds good.
Let's just cross our fingers, it's gonna happen.
Exactly, exactly, yeah.
That's the optimism.
All right, so we'll come back and talk about those in the next meetings. So, all right, so the item for discussion and decision, so we need to approve the board election ballot. So that should be in there. I see that. Oh, yeah, it is. So the board election ballot is And, everything is accurate, just, Justin gave me the website last night, so I just didn't put the website where the candidate statements will actually appear online. But he did give it to me last night, so I do have that. So, you can kind of see where, we were kind of lucky, we have 4 parent candidates and 4 teacher candidates. So it's super, good that we have such a good, choice. I don't know if there's any proofreading or any other elements, any changes that you need to make or suggestions.
Candidate decides to withdraw their candidacy or their eligibility for the election, what would we do? The reason I bring that up, and I don't know if this is the case, at one of the steps, we need teachers to step up, so we had a number of them step up. Some of them may have just put their hat in the ring because nobody else was, and now that they see other people are there, they may want to withdraw, and that may be the case with parents as well, I don't know. So we've had that in the past where a parent will, after they saw other people running, they decided, you know what, I'll wait a year, I would like to withdraw. So if that does happen, what do we want to do? I guess that's my question. Or do we just leave all the names on there and just?
Well, I think we
Because
have
up
to
to this
approve.
point, they don't know who,
Right, nobody
Yeah, they
knows,
don't know.
nobody knows who's.
they don't know the ballot, they don't know who
Right.
else is running. But now they know.
Right.
Well, I don't think we have the ability to change it, we can't speak for them right now. So I think that we have to approve the ballot, and then if somebody comes to me and says, I don't wanna do it, then I feel like I would email the entire community and say, hey, don't vote for this person. Online, we would put, you know, that this person has withdrawn, all of those things. And then if people still vote for that person, we would just not count those votes.
So what's the last time you can publish that? We're essentially changing that. Without full board.
Right.
So we almost have to.
I would tend to leave it, I mean, they suggest if they end up winning, it's the same as any one of us, I mean, we could quit if we choose to, but we are still here voluntarily, right, so. So I like the idea of trying to think that through, but I would just let it go with what they suggest. And deal with the consequences later if it comes up. Because I don't like the idea of taking votes and moving them into another category or spreading votes.
Just-
So it's just either, as soon as people can start voting, that's the ballot, I don't think we can change it. But another vote, yeah, which I hopefully we can avoid.
So you're saying like so I'm gonna be doing the ballots this week, I'm mailing them out next Monday. If someone says to me on Friday, I don't wanna run, that's just too bad, right? I've already made
Yeah.
copies, right? Okay. Can they email the entire community through, you know, they can ask for an email to go out and say, I don't wanna run, please don't vote for me. Or I'm withdrawing or whatever.
Is it gonna be all on the website that we vote?
No, we have to vote, in. I mean, we could still write on the website that they have withdrawn, but then how do we count the ballots?
Yeah, I guess the other way to address that would be, if we send out the ballot, and I'm assuming we would send out the applicant's biographical information with the ballot, so when you go to vote, you have something to reference. We could strike through, and that wouldn't require any board action. You could strike through the person's biographical information and say, candidate withdrew. Now, you can't stop.
There's no guarantee everyone reads
Hmm?
it. There's no guarantee.
That is
everyone
on-
reads it.
That's on them, they're open for someone they're not.
Right.
I mean, if we take a political ballot, it's the same, I mean, maybe Gordon Shower recently saying, please vote here, I'll withdraw, right? So everyone who could have ticked that off. I mean, these are the realities.
Right.
We can only do the best that we can, and the ballot is what we know today. And then But I think we're all saying the
That is
same
my
thing.
point. I mean, when we put it off, the ballot, and then we just leave the information the way it is, that's just the way it runs.
That's
Because you
the-
have to think it that way.
Yeah, and you also have to be fair, right?
Right. I'm not saying you don't have to change the ballot, but that biographical information is not valid.
Yeah,
So
we're
you
trying to
can-
affect something, we're trying to affect it. I mean, there's no doubt about it, so I just don't even want to touch it, because it becomes kind of unfair, because not everyone's gonna see that, it becomes secondary, and it just feels like the backdoor. We just-
Well, I,
But on the
That's
flip
it.
side, if I'm a parent,
Yeah.
and I'm not aware that this person's withdrawn, and I vote for somebody, and everybody else seems to know that this person isn't there, in essence, you cancel my vote.
and that's why I used the Klobuchar as an example, because she was in the ballot up until like the last day or something, and she moved to. So she just wanted those people who could hear, not waste your vote and move it on. So, but I think there was the ballot, would have been the ballot, it would have already been fixed.
But after we run the ballot day, we're pretty much locked in, right?
Yeah, I can't change this ballot after that.
So in
But
essence,
we
the
can-
cutoff is now.
No, so people are aware.
So I was not gonna put the biographical information in the envelope, it's gonna be online. So that,
Doing it online could be exclusionary for some parents. I
Yeah, no, you're right.
mean, because if they don't have internet access, and they only do it at work, and now I don't go to work, I don't have that information.
And we have been doing it that way,
Right.
but now it's.
With the situation that we have now,
Really high.
and we have a number of parents that the only way they access the internet is through their work. And they tend to be the parents that would be of a demographic that's,
We don't want it to split.
exact.
so what if I send the ballot out, I send the candidate statements out in the mail, and the day after I send them out in the mail, somebody decides to withdraw? Then online, am I supposed to cross it off online? Because it won't be crossed off in the mail.
No, I think you have a withdrawal,
Between now and the time I mail it out, then I can cross off the candidate
Yeah.
statement, but I can't change the ballot. That's correct.
Are we putting it in paper also?
Well, that's what he said I should
Should
send the
I'm
candidate.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
Are we suggesting that we put the ballot on paper?
Parents that don't have access to the internet would have no idea.
But once it gets mailed,
That-
I'm gonna leave Lisa, because she's putting it all together, that we will not change, we can't change both, we won't change either.
Right, I totally agree. Once, those candidates, and maybe it's a simple contact to the, sorry, we're beyond that.
I think that's probably the best solution.
So.
I don't know if I even bring it up, that you can get out, I would just.
Everybody knows.
Too
late. But, okay, so this is what the plan says, is that tomorrow I'm copying everything. And then between tomorrow and next Monday, I'm stuffing and mailing them out. So tomorrow is the last time I'm making copies. I'm not gonna stuff all of them, and then somebody tells me on Friday, oh,
I would give you that discretion, because you're full-time with us. Because I don't want to throw out the papers you just printed, or if you kind of pre-collated everything, I want you to go back and pull the shoot out of everything. So the person that does the work gets me.
Yeah, I think we're basically approving it.
Okay, all right. So the only thing that will change is that the website will be put on there, obviously. So where the candidate statements will go up on the website. And I think Justin's already done that. All right, are there any other errors or anything like that?
Say that you would be able to copy.
Yeah, I'll make a paper copy of the ballot and the candidate statements and put them in envelopes. So the envelope goes to each like step parent and guardian, And then there's an envelope inside with the ballot, with the self-addressed envelope that comes back to MSA. So nobody has to pay for it. All those in favor of approving the ballot as a, with the website put in there? Okay. Please say yes.
Yes.
All right, all those opposed? Say no. All right, any abstentions? All right, motion passes. All right. All right, so the next thing is the academic school year and the preparation for online school. So just so those people that are in the audience at home, we did spend most of the workshop talking about this. So the director is just kind of gonna update a little bit, kind of go through a little bit of what he's been working on and what the plan is. And then we probably have just a couple more things to talk about there. Otherwise, you know, just so that we can kind of think about, that's kind of where we're at, so you guys at home know what we've done so far with this.
So a couple of important distinctions before we get, you know, too in-depth in this is there's some terminology that everybody needs to be aware of. Starting tomorrow, we're in closure, which means we will be in a non-instructional time period. So 18th through the 27th is non-instructional time. Students should not be working on homework. They can be doing review packets on their own, getting together in groups and working on their own, but there is no requirement for instruction at that time. That's specifically done because this period of time is for the school to plan what the distance learning will look like. And I use distance learning. There's no more e-learning for the rest of the school year. It will be distance learning. What that distance learning looks like, we don't know at this time because those plans will need to be developed. It may look very, very similar to what our e-learning day was like today, but that determination hasn't happened. So just going forward, when we talk about what is our plan for learning the rest of the school year, we will be using the words distant learning, and that's statewide. So you're not going to hear that e-learning term anymore. It's distant learning. It may be online learning, but those are the terminologies that we will be using going forward. This week has been a week of a lot of change. In March, all schools are tasked with having a plan in place. So the last couple of days have spent getting a plan put together, and we did spend a lot of time at the workshop discussing a lot of those areas. Highlights of that conversation, I guess, mostly communication-wise with the staff and then the parents. You can look forward to an email communication from me Monday and Fridays if you're a parent, and if you're a staff member, it will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every day at 4:30, I have a meeting with MDE to discuss what the closure plan looks like and how that plan is developing for our distant learning. It changes, that every day there's a change, so we have to, it's anything you hear in 2 days, because something may develop and something may change. So we have to be very flexible and understand that this is a plan, is uncharted territory for anybody, and every school district in Minnesota is in the same boat. We have works for our students. So there are 18 different areas that we've identified that the school will be working on. The composition of those teams varies from administrators, board of director members, teacher members, paraprofessional members, parents. And so you can look forward to some emails in the future asking if you want to be part of the team. Most of this planning will occur later this week and next week. The goal is to have most of the plan in place by the 26th, so that we have a few days to flush out, so to speak, some of the bugs that may be in our plan before it goes live on the 30th. and that is our goal, to go live on the 30th with distant learning. You can look forward to more communication on this. Staff on tomorrow was extremely emphatic on was that this distant learning will be equitable for everybody. And there's been already meetings with special ed and the 504 students, not necessarily the students, but the 504 administrators, so that it is equitable. That is one of the sticking points that the governor has been repeating over and over, is that it has to be equitable. We have to provide FAPE, which is a free, appropriate education for each student, whether they access. Parents will be in it. A lot of the staff will be coming in and out of the building. Just please remember, the school is closed. Do not come to school necessarily on campus during this time. There will be some time for students to come up and pick up the. It was very interesting and well in to pick up the equipment. We had over 250 families come in to pick up, and this whole process will go. I'm very encouraged by it. Life is going to be very different at MSA and in every school district, but I think there are a lot of things that we will learn from this process that we will be able to use in years to come. But fundamentally, I guess you can look for a lot more communication about become more available from MDE. Those will be passed on to us. I'll stop there because I go on and on. I don't want to delve too much more. We kind of we talked about that quite a bit.
Or questions that the rest of the board members have? Yeah, I know we talked about it during workshop, just to make sure it's all. And so of course, then we'll be having another board. Procedures. And I guess as far as I see that, she didn't put that in here either. So, it's very good. So the election procedures, I guess the big deal, there were kind of two elements that were supposed to be put into this packet. And so one of the elements was just that originally we were supposed to mail out the documents, like I was supposed to have, like, there were 4 PTO parents who agreed to come in and help me mail out the documents, stuff them and everything tomorrow. Because of the virus and everything like that, I just kind of made the decision to not have that meeting. And so instead of mailing out everything by this Friday, I'm extension to have it be able to be mailed out by Monday. Because we also had to add all of the staff members to it, because usually with the staff, we just put it into the office. And it's just a procedural thing, it's nothing to do with like a policy or anything like that. But I just wanted to kind of make sure that that was okay with everybody, that we mailed them out Monday instead of Friday. Just so I could have more time to stuff them, because I'm impressing my children to stuff them along with me, right? But is everybody kind of okay with that? Okay. And then the other element was that for the students, this year we were trying to do the students kind of at the same time for the student rep. But the problem is that we were going to have the students vote in advisory. That and just to make sure that, I mean, it's just a procedure, it's not like a big deal, but I just wanted to make sure that that was okay, and everybody understood that that was a change from what we talked about before. So, is that okay with everybody? Okay, sounds good. And then the last thing that we had added on here was the staff closure days. So I don't know exactly how we want the motion to work, but John, maybe I'll talk about it, and John, do you want to kind of write up what you want the motion to be? Talk about it, or do you want to talk about it and I'll write the motion? Maybe
I'll do it that way. You don't mind?
Okay, sounds good.
So the reason for this staff closure motion is because the guidance done by MPE given out last night was that staff members, all staff members are to report to school starting on the closure date, which is tomorrow. And then they would report throughout the entire time. Or I believe that recommendation is flawed in that having everybody on campus, instructors, is asking for, in some respects, the spread of the virus, because you don't know the incubation period, because you may have it and not be aware of it, and all of a sudden you've given it to the staff members. I would like the board to recommend that staff members during the closure period follow the same procedures that we use during workshops. During workshops, the procedure is that the staff member either comes on campus and works, or they send me an email telling me what they're going to work on during that day, so that we have accountability, that people are working on whatever work they need to be working on during this time, either on campus or at home or wherever they feel is the best effective place for them to work. Excuse me. So I would request that the board give the staff that latitude to either be on campus or send an email to the director that they're going to be working from home or some other site so that they can get their work done. And I guess I would leave it at that.
So this was the motion that I wrote. The MSA staff may work from home during the closure as long as they follow the regular staff workshop procedures. Does that capture the spirit of what you're talking about? Yep. The MSA staff may work from home during the closure as long as they follow the regular staff workshop procedures.
Do not require to come on campus, or do you think some people might actually want to or need to? Is that the case? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
that is an option. They can still come to campus and work, but I don't want to make them, especially if they're very, if they can work off-site and be as productive. Sometimes they're even more productive.
Well, we all have different situations in terms of exposure to. So
Do we want to say workshop or teacher workday? Workshop to me
is the board
brings to
Work,
mind
yeah.
when we come and we're sitting all morning.
Yeah, I would change that, yes, to be work day,
Teacher work day.
work days,
Yeah.
because we do have those on the calendar.
So the MSA staff may work from home during the closure as long as they follow the regular staff workday procedures.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Okay, so don't kind of forget about that. Of course, the new board will be redoing the entire. And then the eligibility policy 510, we'll have to get the task force to kind of start to work on what that might look like for next year. And then we just have a couple of things that we should start thinking about for the April meeting. I just want to kind of put out there that if you want to be an officer for next year, you should start and, kind of, maybe asking the person who has that position right now, what kinds of things does it entail? How many hours is it? Or, some different things like that. In the binder you got when you first came on the board, there's like some really small descriptions of those positions, but you do kind of want to start to think about that. We also, or the new board will have to think about a little bit, how do they want people to say, hey, I'm willing to be an officer. How do you want to do the appointments and things like that? So the last time around, the chair just said, hey, if you're interested, let me know and I will put your name out there. And then nobody let them know. And so then there was nobody who said, I am willing to do it. So then it kind of became a problem, how do you get people to appoint people at the meeting if no one has said, I'm willing to do it? So we have to kind of think a little bit about that, what that process will kind of look like. Do you just want to tell me if you're interested, or, you know, and then I can pass that on, or, you know, how do you want that to kind of go? You guys need to kind of start thinking about that. And then I just want us to think about how do we want to appoint that new parent member. I think that the new board has to do the appointment, but I think that it would be nice of us to at least recruit members, so that at that June meeting, there can be, you know, hopefully there would be 3 or 4 parents who are interested. They can be there, and at that June meeting, once this board leaves, those 3 people can kind of talk and say, you know, I'm interested because of this or whatever, and then that new board can actually appoint them. So then that person can be seated at that meeting in June. I think that would just be nice of us. I mean, otherwise, we theoretically don't have to do anything if he doesn't resign until the June meeting. I mean, theoretically, we could just do nothing. But I just think going forward, you know, and we have obviously we have 4 parents who are interested right now. So it might be nice, you know, it'd be fairly easy for me, you know, kind of in June to say, hey, you know, are you still interested, you know, and things like that too. I mean, it will go, when whoever the new person is, it will go out to all of the parents, and all parents will have opportunity to apply for that position. But I just want to think about what you want that to look like. Does that make sense, Jen? Okay. So then thinking about the dates of the upcoming board meetings, you can see that there are 3 that are scheduled on there. And then during the workshop today, then we talked about the April 6th meeting as well. And that meeting will be a closed meeting, and that will be at 5. And that will be the same as A. So paragraph to evaluate the individual subject to the board's authority. Okay. So does everybody have that one, April 6th at 5:30? Okay. Then I think we also said that we'll have a special board meeting. This one will be an open meeting on March 30th at 5 p.m. And so that one will be in case we need to discuss more things about the closure and distance learning. So that will be 2 weeks from today. Is there anything else?
So do we have a sense of how we can conduct that meeting, similar to this probably? Let's change things.
Yeah, and I think we'll kind of see if we need to have a workshop and a meeting, or if there's, I mean, I think John and I can kind of discuss that and kind of get some input from you. If we need to have a workshop and a meeting, or just a meeting, you know, are there things that need to get approved or not? You know, and I mean, I'm sure we can kind of figure out maybe a couple days beforehand if we actually need to have it or not.
I mean, if school's back on, then we should all be fine and fair to come and meet. If it's not back on, then I would say we should figure out the e-learning or some distance, Google Hangouts, something like that, right?
Yep. So yeah, there are things that were sent out today about how we can do that. All right, is there a motion to adjourn at 7:37? 7:36.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah. All right, is there a second? All right, all those in favor of adjourning, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Any abstentions? And thank you, Adam, for doing all of the recording and everything.
Seconded that, Adam?
I did.
Okay.